Kit Guru, and in this video I'm taking a look at the Zotac MEK1 Mini Gaming PC. It's going to retail for around £1,399 here in the UK. It's got this very sort of small and slim ITX form factor, so it's perfect for those of you that might not have that much space on your desk and you want something that is a bit more space saving than a traditional desktop PC. The dimensions of the MEK1, it's 118mm wide, 415mm tall and 418mm deep. It is a pre-built PC, so I found it nice and easy to set up. You just unbox it and then there's a power lead to plug in the back. You plug the two Wi-Fi antennas in the back as well, so you can get Wi-Fi signal, and then there's two plastic feet that you just slip onto the bottom of the case. The operating system, Windows 10 Home, is also already pre-installed, so it's just a case of plugging all those extras in and then pressing the power button and it's ready to go, and you can just get down to playing some games. The case on the Zotac MEK1 is sort of a matte black plastic, and to be honest, I'm not really a fan of how it looks. It's got these big like sticky out fins on the side that remind me of like the funky looking cases from like 6 or 8 years ago, and also because the whole case is made out of plastic, it doesn't exactly scream premium. It does feel sort of like cheap and plasticky. The 2 feet on the side, I understand why they're there. It's because such a slim case, it needs them to stay upright, but I really don't like how they look. Once again, a bad design, I would say. And also like the glossy plastic I/O cover on the front, I don't really understand the point in it. I think it definitely looks better down. It's really quite ugly and sort of doesn't match the rest of the plastic on the case. I think Zotac have done quite a good job to compensate for all of this though, with the 2 customizable RGB strips down the side. They're nice and bright and the colours are accurate as well, and they're also customizable. The Zotac Spectra software I found is easy to use, it's nice and intuitive, and there's a few different options to change the lighting. I've currently got it on the like cycle mode, so it cycles through all the different colours, but there's like a static colour mode, there's also a strobing colour mode as well, and like a breathing, but I think the cycle's my favourite because it just sort of scrolls through all the different colours. I know some of you might quite like the design of the MEK1. I mean, after all, it's an aesthetic thing, so it's all down to taste, but I'm really not a huge fan. I definitely think it looks a little bit on the ugly side, I guess. On the inside of the Zotac MEK1, it is definitely a proper desktop PC. It's got some really good specifications. There's 2 8GB sticks of DDR4 2400MHz RAM. It's got an Intel Core i7 7700 CPU, which I do think is a bit of an interesting choice for a PC in 2018. I am waiting to hear back from Zotac on why they did opt to use a Gigabit processor. It's got a blower style Zotac 8GB GTX 1070 Ti, which I do think is a really nice looking card. It's a shame that is hidden inside this case. Storage comes as a 240GB M.2 PCIe NVMe SSD, which is very important for a PC in 2018. It's sort of a must-have for me. And then it's also got a 2.5-inch 1TB hard drive as well for storage for games and things. It has got a small 450-watt power supply, which does look like it's made by Silverstone, and it is 80+ bronze rated as well. I think the overall layout on the inside does make sense, with the blower graphics card having plenty of room to breathe, and it's got this like extra vent on the side as well that it can push the hot air out of. There's these 2 extra small fans next to the CPU, and I guess they're there just to provide some extra airflow out the side of the case. The cables aren't really anything special. They're sort of these funky rainbow cables, but I think they're reasonably neat and they are cable tied into place. The RAM, hard drive and M.2 SSD also look like it can be upgraded, and they're sort of like easy to access as well. This PC has plenty of connectivity. It's the same as you would expect to see on a full-size desktop PC. So when it comes to internet connectivity, it's got dual Gigabit LAN ports. There's 2 802.11 AC Wi-Fi antennas. And then there's loads of USB connectors as well. So there's 2 USB 2 connectors on the back, and then there's 4 USB 3 connectors on the back, with a further 2 USB 3 connectors on the front. There's all the same audio connectivity you would expect to see, loads of different audio options on the back, with a further headphone jack and microphone jack on the front of the PC. When it comes to connecting a display, because this computer has got a full-size GTX 1070 Ti, there's 3 display ports, a HDMI port, and also a DVI as well. Now I'm going to move on to performance and testing. I've been using this PC for a little while, getting to know it, playing some games, checking the temperatures, checking the noise levels. As normal, I'll try not to bore you too much with loads of information in this video, so make sure to head over to the KitGuru website in your own time if you'd like a little bit more information. I'm going to start off with the temperature results that I got. The Zotac MEK1 is reasonably quite cool when it's idle. Everything stays around just over 30 degrees. To test how hot it gets when it's under load, I ran Ada64 and Unigen for 10 minutes to test both the CPU and GPU at the same time, to check that the fans and things are efficient enough to cool them both simultaneously. So the i7-7700, Zotac did a really good job of cooling that. It stayed under 70 degrees throughout the testing. The GPU did get a little bit hotter, but I did see that the fan profile is actually more on the passive side. The maximum fan speed that I saw was 52%, so it probably explains why it got up to 82 degrees, which I would say is actually quite hot, really. Maybe it would be worth tweaking the fan profile, making it a little more aggressive. I think it's worth having a little bit extra noise in order to keep that temperature down, because of course at 82 degrees there is no option to perform any sort of overclock and sort of try to get a little bit more performance, because of course that graphics card is probably going to overheat. So I measure the sound levels on the MEK1 by using my sound level meter when it's completely idle, so on the desktop with no programs open. I then did another sound level reading while I was running the Ada64 and Unigen test to check the temperatures, so all the fans were spinning nice and fast, and I could get a good reading when everything was sort of pushed to the limit. I actually found this PC isn't that silent and stealthy while it's idle. It's 42 decibels, so there is definitely some fan noise, but in fact it doesn't actually get that much louder when it's put under load. It only gets up to 50 decibels, so I found this PC is far from being irritating and annoying. The sound levels are actually quite good. I just wish maybe it was a little bit quieter when it was idle. Another thing I will mention as well, the fan noise isn't really a problem at all, but one thing I did find annoying was that the particular review sample that I've been sent does have a little bit of coil whine. I'm not sure if it's coming from the GPU or the power supply. It's quite hard to sort of differentiate between which one it is, because everything's sort of so close together in this case, but it is definitely there when I put the PC under load, like while gaming or rendering, something like that, where it causes the parts to be under load. I did definitely notice some cool whine. Hopefully it's just on my sample, and I've just got unlucky really, but I think it is definitely something worth mentioning. So I now talk about the Cinebench testing results that I got. So I basically compared the i7-7700 to CPUs and other mini PCs that KitGuru have tested, put them all in the graph here so you can take a look at the results. The i7-7700 isn't an overclockable CPU, so obviously I couldn't overclock it to get any extra performance out of it, but it did get a pretty decent score of 860. However, as you can see, it was completely smashed by the new i7-8700 because it's got 2 extra cores. So to me, it is quite interesting that Zotac have opted to use this Kaby Lake processor in a PC in 2018. I think it definitely puts this PC at a disadvantage when it comes to performance. Not really for gaming. There's not going to be much difference between i7-7700 and an i7-8700. Those extra cores won't translate to much FPS. But if you are someone that wants to do like video editing and like rendering, then the performance in this PC is definitely lacking compared to the newer processors. I'm waiting to hear back on Zotac as to why they've opted to use the CPU. The only logical reason I can think of is because of cost. But I mean, for gaming it doesn't make much difference, but it's definitely something to think about. After the Cinebench testing, I moved on and did the 3D Mark benchmark. So unsurprisingly, the MEK1 got some very good scores, particularly on Firestrike, which is the 1080p benchmark. So it does show this should be a really good gaming PC for gaming on a 1080p monitor. The individual results of the GPU and CPU, there wasn't one that seriously outperformed the other, so it shows that they are a well-matched pair. And overall, after doing the 3D Mark testing, I was expecting some very good gaming performance. To test the gaming performance on this PC, I ran my 3 tester games, so that's Rise of the Tomb Raider, Far Cry 5 and Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Wildlands. I tested them on 2 different graphics settings, so it was either high, very high or ultra, depending on which game it was. It's extra work for me, but more interesting for you. I also tried it on 3 different resolutions for each game, so it was 1080p, 1440 and also 2160 as well. So that allows you to see if you're going to be plugging in a different monitor, because I know everyone's got different preferences as to what resolution they like to use. It basically shows the different performance you can get from the MEK1. So 1080p resolution, all the tester games, this little PC did really well. I think it would really benefit from having a high refresh rate monitor, so something like 144Hz. 144Hz, 1080p gaming, this is the PC for you. 1440p resolution actually did really good as well. It got at least 60 FPS on all of the tester games. A lot of the time it was much higher than that. And that's even on like high graphics settings as well. So 1440p, very capable. It did begin to struggle, however, when it comes to 4K resolution. That's pretty much as expected. It's got a GTX 1070 Ti in it, which is what I'm using on my main PC. So you do sort of have to sacrifice FPS really to get it running at that resolution. But it did achieve at least 30 FPS the majority of the time, so it did do pretty good at 4K resolution, but of course it doesn't get that sort of like sweet 60 FPS that you would expect. So overall, what do I think of the Zotac MEK1? I think it is a good little PC. It's easy to live with because it doesn't get too hot and it's not too loud. It's got some really good specifications packed into a smaller form factor. So it's great for those of you that might have limited space and just want something maybe to like slip behind a monitor. Also makes it more portable as well if you're sort of partial to going to different LAN events. I think the $1,399 asking price is fair really. You do pay a bit of a premium, sort of 10-20%, because it is that small form factor, but I don't think that is overpriced really. The main thing I don't like is it's a bit on the ugly side for me. It is still all down to personal taste, but I do think it is sort of like ugly and tacky looking. But there are some of you that might actually quite like the look of the MEK1. Another thing I'm not too sure on is why Zotac opted to use that outdated i7-7700. It definitely doesn't have much influence when it comes to gaming performance. So therefore I think the Zotac MEK1 is a great little PC and I definitely recommend it if you're looking for something to game on. If you like this video from KitGuru, give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more from KitGuru, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and there is also a little bell icon as well so you can get notifications of when a new video goes live.